You thought you were the hero, playing your shit again. You're just another zombie.
Driving around this area, you know, it's changed so much, but they were great days, you know. I mean, the bloke who owned the Carlton Picture Theatre, Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesday nights were his low nights, and there was this lunatic from the university, me, who got to be friends with him, and he let me program Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday night every week, and in fact the numbers went up. And it's not really surprising because that was the beginning of the whole cahier du cinéma, mise en scène, love the American stuff. And all we wanted to do was to see the old American movies, and we were banging them on it as double bills, and we could get to watch them 3 times a week.
Well, Readings, you know, like, had like 2 stores. There was the record store and there's also the bookshop. Really, it was probably one of the first really good bookshops in Melbourne, you know, like especially in Carlton. And a lot of people went there. It was used for a lot of different reasons. People used to put their, you know, you find accommodation that was on the window. You know, it was just up the road from Tamani's, which was our favourite coffee shop at that stage. There was a couple other, the university, which was just down the road a bit further.
And they weren't all that large. I mean, you can, if you look at the scene in Pure Shit in the record store with Greg Pickhaver, H.G. Nelson, these days, there aren't a lot of records there, but because it was selective and because it was catering to the people who lived around here, it was like heaven on a stick, basically.
Yeah, great, because they had all the imports, but nobody else in Melbourne had. And he'd bring him in, and he was really selling to a very selective audience, which was basically all the people who lived in Carlton.
Well, he was a very smart businessman, apart from being a nice guy, and it wasn't just his genius taste. People would go in to Mike and say, can you get in X, Y and Z? And he'd look it up in his catalogue, God, before computers.
Yeah.
And he'd say, sure, and I don't know, he'd put about $5 on each one or something on the price, and it was just a great deal for everybody. The Italians dominated commercially. They were in the process of moving out of the houses into the suburbs, but...
Right. And Bert lived just across the road up here, Queensbury Street.
There was a place called the University Cafe, which was my spiritual home, because it had the best coffee in the world, and the reason it had the best coffee in the world was that they didn't need to make any profit, because it was actually a gambling joint, and all the old Italian blokes would be out the back playing cards, and you'd get the best coffee in the world. Great deal for everybody. Where are we, Gaz?
We're in Drummond Street, Carlton, near Grattan Street. Down there is Faraday Street. It was a really cheap rental area. Originally, a lot of Greeks had moved into this area. Then the university students had taken over. The hippies and the alternative culture had moved in. A lot of people lived around this whole area. In fact, I lived down in Nicholson Street when we were doing Pure S, and I was paying $2 a week. I mean, that's what it was like.
And he probably had a luxurious mansion compared to some.
Yeah.
When I was at Melbourne University, I lived in about 5 places within 3 streets around here. All of them, really, looking back on them, and you wouldn't even call them habitable, really. All filled with other students like myself who were starving to death with a certain amount of style. This is, for us at least, this is where it all started. Where, at least for us, the whole Pure Shit adventure began. This used to be the Buyy Foundation. It was just about the scungiest house in the lowest rental area of Melbourne, which was all they could afford. And it was the very first attempt by anybody to do something to help the first generation of kids who were already getting addicted to heroin. It was set up by a very wealthy woman whose son had recently overdosed, and there was one staff member who was one of those urban saints that you meet only once or twice in a lifetime, whose name was
June Bryant. She was this incredible mother-like figure who just loved any person who walked in the door. It doesn't matter what they did with it, what drugs they'd taken, what had happened to them. All she wanted to do was love them. And she did, and she wanted to keep them afloat. She wanted to keep them alive, and that was her primary purpose in life, really. And she just gave her heart and soul to this place.
In fact, there's a short scene in Pure Shit where you see the social worker who's arrived at the house to find a dead body and is ringing the police, and the attitude expressed by that social worker in that circumstance, and the fact that it was one of many that she had to attend, was all based on this extraordinary woman.
Yeah.
This now, of course, is sort of yuppie heaven in Carlton, and but in those days it was very far from it.
And it ain't a fool loving, yeah, it sounds on you and me. Well, I know that battle picture, yeah, I know it off by heart. You must be the hero, but the heroine in your heart.
God, there's not much left of the old pram factory. There's not much left of the neighbourhood, come to think of it.
Yeah.
You can see the tower. You think that so many people were living in this place, not just putting on performances, but it was a place where everybody lived together as well. It was a pretty amazing place, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an incredible place, actually, a hive of activity. They've taken a lane away. We're actually opposite the Carlton police station in Drummond Street, right near Elgin Street. And it's just changed so much. I mean, you've got some sort of yuppie, top of the range accessory store there where a shoebox costs you more than most pairs of shoes that you buy from a normal store.
They've taken the lane away, mate, because they knew it was you running down it. They're still searching for you, I think.
Yeah.
They thought they'd get rid of the lane, though.
Well, it's a bit of a disappointment, really. The only good thing about it is there is a theatre next door to it now, which is an old church. But I tell you what, they destroyed a landmark. This is the sort of building that really should have been heritage, you know? It should have been kept because it was a part of Australian theatre history.
When you come to think of it, though, there was a gulf between the people about whom and with whom we were making our film and the people who lived and worked in the pram factory. All of us were all middle-class university graduates and all the rest of it, and the pram factory was always priding itself on its working-class relevance. But then, when a few working-class people actually listened to the propaganda and turned up, everybody freaked out. You were one of those people, as I remember, that caused them to freak out. Mick Duncan, another guy who was in our film. But we've travelled a short distance from the Buyy Foundation, and we might as well have gone about 3,000 miles, really, one way and another.
Yeah, it's what, 300 yards away,
Yeah.
the old Buyy Foundation. But yeah, I know, but look what it's done to it, you know. Look what they've done to this whole area. Just yuppified it and changed it.
I want to talk about your eyes right now, but don't turn on the light. Don't turn on the light, man.
This is the start of the laneway where we did the chemist bust.
Right.
Okay, there used to be a wire gate up here, and I did the flyover there, and John and I ran up to where the chemist shop was down at the end. Okay, we ran down there, and immediately we were up in the wall within 20 seconds. This all took about 20 seconds. And then we jump up, and that's when the other two came around the corner, Willie and Wilhelmina, and we had that argument about the chemist.
Gary's being slightly modest there. In fact, it took him 20 seconds to do all of that because Gary can run up vertical walls. Always famous as a second story man, Gary was.
Yeah.
John Laurie, however, was not nearly as well equipped, and it took a very hefty bunk from a series of crew members to get him up over the wall.
Well, it ain't a...
What the fuck is he up to? Oh, God knows.
What the fuck are you doing, Lou?
I'm making out like I'm the chemist.